Ethan Carter woke up to something strange. His mind was still groggy, his body still heavy with sleep. The soft glow of morning light filtered through his blinds, casting long shadows across his small apartment. But something felt off. His bed was warm, too warm, as if someone else was there. His breath caught in his throat. Slowly, carefully, he turned his head, and his heart nearly stopped. Lying next to him was a girl. Not just any girl. She had smooth, shimmering blue skin that seemed to reflect the morning light. Her hair was silver, flowing like strands of liquid metal. But it was her eyes that froze him in place. Deep violet, glowing softly in the dim room. Ethan sucked in a breath, his mind racing. Who the hell was she? How had she gotten here? Before he could move, she stirred. Her long lashes fluttered open, and for a brief moment, they just stared at each other. Then, she bolted upright. "You?" she started, her voice smooth but urgent. Ethan reacted on instinct, rolling out of bed and grabbing the closest object, his old military knife. "Who are you?" he demanded. "How did you get in here?" Her eyes flickered to the blade, but she didn't seem afraid. Instead, she pressed her fingers to the side of her head, as if listening to something. Then she looked back at him, her expression tense. "You have to help me," she whispered. "They're coming." A knock pounded against the front door. Then another, harder this time. Ethan's stomach dropped. What the hell was happening? 2. Galactic chase begins. The pounding on the door grew louder. Ethan's instincts screamed at him. This wasn't normal. Whoever was outside wasn't friendly. The girl leaped from the bed and grabbed his wrist. "We have to leave. Now." "Wait, what?" Ethan yanked his arm back. "Who the hell are you?" She didn't answer. Instead, she raised her left hand, revealing a small wrist-mounted device covered in glowing alien symbols. She tapped it once. And suddenly, the entire room flickered. A holographic map of his apartment appeared in midair, highlighting all possible escape routes. Ethan's mouth went dry. What the hell? Then, boom. The door exploded inward, sending splinters flying. Ethan barely had time to react before 3 massive figures stepped into the room. They weren't human. Each one stood nearly 7 feet tall, clad in sleek black armor, their faces obscured by smooth helmets. Alien bounty hunters. One of them lifted a sleek, glowing rifle and aimed directly at the girl. Ethan didn't think, he moved. Years of training kicked in. He grabbed the girl, tackled her behind the couch just as a plasma shot burned through the air where she'd been standing. The girl didn't hesitate. She tapped her wrist device again, and a cloaked hoverbike materialized outside the window. "We have to go," she shouted. Ethan glanced at the bounty hunters, then back at her. "Screw it." He grabbed her hand, ran toward the window, and jumped. 3. Earth's secret defense. The hoverbike caught them midair, its anti-grav engines humming softly as it sped away from his apartment. Behind them, the bounty hunters were already in pursuit, leaping onto their own high-speed aerial crafts. "We're not gonna outrun them," Ethan shouted over the wind. The girl pressed a button on her wrist. "We don't have to." Suddenly, a cloaking field surrounded them, rendering them nearly invisible. The bounty hunters hesitated, scanning the skies for them, but they were already gone. Ethan let out a breath. "All right. You want to tell me what the hell is going on?" She turned to face him. "My name is Lyra. I'm not just any alien. I'm the last surviving princess of the Solari Empire, and I'm being hunted by the Galactic Council." Ethan blinked. "A princess. Not the pampered kind," she muttered. "My people were betrayed. The Council wants me dead because I know a secret about Earth." Ethan's eyes narrowed. "What secret?" She hesitated. "Earth is not what you think it is." Before he could press her further, alarms blared from a nearby military facility. Something big was happening. and Ethan had the sinking feeling they were right in the middle of it. 4. Humans. The last hope of the galaxy. They landed near an abandoned military bunker. Liara rushed to a hidden terminal, her fingers flying across the console. Ethan crossed his arms. "You gonna tell me what you're doing?" She didn't look up. "I'm activating an old system, one that Earth's military abandoned years ago." The screen flickered, then a deep mechanical voice rumbled. "System activated. Welcome back, Commander." Ethan felt a chill. Liara turned to him. "Ethan, humans aren't a weak race. The Council lied to you. Your ancestors were the greatest warriors the galaxy has ever seen." The bunker's ceiling rumbled, and a massive holographic map of space appeared. Dots representing hidden human fleets blinked across the galaxy. Ethan stared. "Holy shit." Liara stepped forward. "This is why the Council fears you. They knew Earth could rise again. That's why they tried to keep you weak." A noob alarm blared. Incoming enemy fleet detected. Weapons armed. The bunker doors shattered. The bounty hunters had found them. 5. The final stand. The bounty hunters rushed in, weapons raised. Ethan grabbed an old plasma rifle from the bunker's stash and opened fire. Liara activated a protective energy shield, deflecting shots as she fought back with alien combat skills. But the enemy had reinforcements. A massive warship hovered overhead, charging its planetary obliteration cannon. Ethan's gut clenched. "They're gonna wipe us out." Liara's fingers danced over the terminal. "Not if I activate Earth's hidden fleet." Ethan glanced at the screen. A fleet of long-lost human warships lay dormant in deep space. All they needed was a command. "Ethan," Liara whispered, "say the words." He clenched his jaw. Then he spoke. "Wake up." 6. Humanity rises. Epic ending. Across the galaxy, hidden human warships roared to life. In Earth's orbit, massive battle cruisers decloaked, their weapons charging. The Galactic Council fleet halted in shock. They never expected this. Ethan and Liara sprinted from the bunker as the first human cannons fired. The enemy warship above them erupted into flames, torn apart by human firepower. The bounty hunters panicked, retreating as Earth's forces dominated the battlefield. Liara turned to Ethan, breathless. "You just changed history." Ethan smirked. "And this is just the beginning." As the enemy fled, Liara and Ethan stood side by side, watching humanity rise from the ashes. For the first time in 1,000 years, Earth was no longer prey. Now, they were the hunters. The pounding on the door grew louder, each thud shaking the walls of Ethan's apartment. His pulse quickened. Whoever was outside wasn't here for a friendly visit. His instincts screamed at him. This was serious. The alien girl, Liara, grabbed his wrist, her grip surprisingly strong. "We have to go. Now." Ethan yanked his arm back. "Hold up. I don't even know who you are." "No time to explain," she hissed, pressing a button on a small device strapped to her wrist. A faint hum filled the air as a holographic projection flickered to life. It showed a blueprint of his apartment, complete with exit routes, ventilation shafts, and a highlighted escape path. Ethan's eyes widened. "What the hell is that?" Before she could answer, boom! The front door exploded inward, sending debris flying across the room. The force of the blast threw Ethan off balance. He barely managed to shield his face before the dust settled, revealing 3 massive figures stepping into his apartment. They weren't human. Towering at nearly 7 feet, they wore sleek black armor, their faces hidden behind smooth, reflective helmets. Each carried a weapon, a mix of plasma rifles and energy blades, the kind Ethan had only seen in sci-fi movies. One of them raised its weapon, a low mechanical voice growling through its helmet speaker. "Target acquired." Ethan barely had time to think. The alien fired. A blinding plasma shot tore through the air, heading straight for Liara. She moved faster than he thought possible, ducking and rolling to the side, avoiding the blast by inches. The energy bolt struck the far wall, blowing a massive hole through it. Ethan's survival instincts kicked in. He grabbed the closest weapon he had, his old military combat knife, and lunged at the nearest attacker. The alien barely flinched. With terrifying strength, it swatted him aside like he weighed nothing. Ethan crashed into the bookshelf, pain jolting through his ribs. Liara tapped something on her wrist. Backup plan. The window behind them, shattered as a cloaked hoverbike, materialized just outside. It floated in the air, its anti-gravity engines humming softly. Liara grabbed Ethan's arm again. Jump. Ethan's eyes flicked between the advancing aliens and the hovering escape vehicle. He gritted his teeth. Screw it. He grabbed Liara's hand, sprinted toward the window, and jumped. The wind roared in his ears as they fell. The hoverbike's automated system adjusted for their trajectory, and they landed smoothly on the seat. Liara immediately grabbed the controls, slamming the accelerator forward. The bike lurched ahead, rocketing through the air, leaving the wreckage of his apartment behind. Ethan barely had time to catch his breath before he looked back. The aliens were already in pursuit. 2 of them had leaped from the building, landing on their own high-speed aerial craft. The vehicles were sleek, black, and armed with pulse cannons. Red warning lights flickered across their surfaces as they locked onto their target, Ethan and Liara. Ethan swore, "Tell me you have a plan." Liara didn't answer. Instead, she pressed another button on her wrist device. A shimmering energy field formed around them, distorting their appearance slightly. "Cloaking engaged," she muttered. The pursuing craft hesitated, their scanners momentarily confused by the invisibility shield. But they weren't giving up that easily. They adjusted their trajectory, using heat signatures to track them instead. One of the alien pilots fired. A streak of blue plasma shot past them, barely missing the hoverbike's engine. The heat alone was enough to make Ethan break into a sweat. "Yeah, your plan's not working," he shouted. Liara cursed under her breath. "Hold on." She tilted the hoverbike straight down, sending them into a free fall. The cityscape below blurred into a mess of neon lights and towering skyscrapers. Ethan's stomach lurched. "Are you insane?" The wind howled as they plummeted between 2 massive buildings, the alleyway below barely wide enough for them to fit through. At the last possible second, Liara pulled up. The bike skimmed the pavement before soaring forward at breakneck speed. The aliens weren't so lucky. One of the pursuing craft clipped the edge of a rooftop. The impact sent it spiraling out of control before crashing into a nearby building in a fiery explosion. "One down," Liara said, smirking. Ethan, still gripping the bike for dear life, exhaled sharply. "You're enjoying this way too much." The second alien was still on their tail. And this one wasn't making mistakes. The remaining enemy pilot locked onto their position and fired a barrage of seeker drones, small, hovering machines designed to track and eliminate targets. "Tell me we have countermeasures," Ethan shouted. Liara glanced at the dashboard. Only one. She flipped a switch. A compartment on the back of the hoverbike opened, releasing a dozen mini EMP mines into the air. As soon as the drones got close, zap! A wave of electromagnetic energy fried their circuits, causing them to drop from the sky like dead insects. The aliens' craft swerved to avoid the EMP field, giving Liara the perfect opportunity. She spun the hoverbike around, aimed their onboard weapons, and fired. A bolt of high-energy plasma struck the enemy vehicle dead center. The ship erupted in a ball of fire, debris scattering across the skyline. Silence followed, except for the hum of the hoverbike's engines. Ethan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. "Remind me to never question you again." Liara smirked. "Good choice." She adjusted their course, heading for the outskirts of the city. Ethan could see the vast wastelands beyond, the remains of Earth's old war zones, abandoned after the last global conflict. He frowned. "Where exactly are we going?" Liara's expression turned serious. "Somewhere safe." Ethan studied her for a moment. There was something in her eyes. Fear, urgency, and something else. She wasn't just running from those bounty hunters. She was running from something much bigger. And somehow, Ethan had just been dragged into the middle of it. The hover bike streaked across the wastelands, the burning city lights fading behind them. Ethan's heart was still hammering in his chest from the chase, but his mind was racing even faster. Who the hell were those armored aliens? And why did they want Liara so badly? He glanced at her. She was gripping the controls tightly, her sharp eyes scanning the horizon. Her body was tense, like she was expecting another attack at any moment. Ethan finally broke the silence. "All right, start talking. Who were those guys?" Liara exhaled, her voice low. "Hunters, sent by the Galactic Dominion." Ethan frowned. "Never heard of them." She gave him a sharp look. "You wouldn't have. Earth isn't supposed to know about them." That made his stomach twist. He had always suspected there was more to the universe than humanity knew. But this was something else entirely. "You're telling me Earth isn't alone?" he asked. Liara shook her head. "Not even close. The galaxy is filled with thousands of civilizations. Some are peaceful. Some," she hesitated, "some see your planet as nothing more than a resource waiting to be claimed." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "And the Dominion. They're the worst of them all. An empire that conquers and enslaves. They take what they want, destroy anything that resists. And right now," she met his gaze, "they want Earth." His grip tightened on the side of the bike. "Why?" Liara's lips pressed into a thin line. "Because they think your planet is defenseless." Ethan let out a bitter laugh. "Yeah, well, they wouldn't be wrong. We don't have space fleets or laser weapons. If they wanted to take Earth, they could do it without breaking a sweat." Liara didn't answer. Instead, she adjusted the bike's trajectory, heading toward what looked like a ruined military base deep in the wasteland. Ethan's brows furrowed. "Where are we going?" Liara's voice was calm, but there was an edge to it. "To show you that you're wrong." The ground beneath them began to change. The cracked roads gave way to metallic panels hidden beneath the dust, like an airstrip from a forgotten era. As they neared the entrance of the abandoned base, Liara pressed a button on her wrist device. The ground rumbled. Ethan's eyes widened as a hidden mechanism activated, pulling apart layers of sand and rock to reveal a massive underground hangar. "What the hell?" Liara smirked. "Welcome to Earth's real defense." They descended into the opening, the hoverbike smoothly landing on the metallic floor. Ethan jumped off, eyes darting around. The hangar was filled with advanced weaponry, sleek spacecraft, and mechanized combat suits, none of which should have existed. "This is impossible," he muttered. Liara walked ahead, her voice echoing in the vast chamber. "Your people have always believed they were alone. But the truth is, Earth has been preparing for this war for decades." Ethan shook his head. "This doesn't make sense. If we had this kind of tech, why keep it a secret?" "Because the moment the Dominion found out, they'd send an invasion force. Earth's leaders knew they had one advantage: surprise." Ethan exhaled, trying to process everything. It was too much. Aliens, a hidden war, Earth secretly armed to the teeth. But one question still nagged at him. "How do you know all this?" Liara hesitated, then reached up to her collar. A small metallic device detached from her neck, and in an instant her image flickered. The glowing blue tattoos on her arms disappeared. The slight shimmer in her violet eyes faded. And just like that, she looked human. Ethan took a step back. "What they?" "I was born here, Ethan." Her voice was softer now. "On one of you." His mind reeled. "But how?" Liara sighed. "Because Earth isn't just hiding weapons. It's been hiding people. Operatives like me were trained from birth, raised to infiltrate the Dominion, to learn their secrets, and to bring that knowledge back." Ethan let out a slow breath. "And now they're hunting you." Liara nodded. Because I stole something they can't afford to lose. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small glowing data crystal. It pulsed with a faint blue light, the energy within shifting like liquid. This, she said, holding it up, contains the Dominion's invasion plans. Every ship, every weapon, every strategy they'll use to take Earth. If we use this right, we can stop them before they even get here. Ethan stared at the crystal, his heart pounding. This wasn't just some alien war. This was Earth's survival. A new voice echoed through the hangar. Then we better not waste time. Ethan turned. A group of soldiers in high-tech battle armor approached. At their center was an older man, his scared face set in a grim expression. General Carter, Lyra greeted. The man nodded. You did good, Lyra. We've been waiting for this intel for a long time. He turned to Ethan, his gaze sharp. And you must be the civilian she dragged into this mess. Ethan straightened, didn't exactly get a choice. Carter gave a small smirk. You never do in a war. He motioned for them to follow. As they walked deeper into the base, massive holographic displays flickered to life. Ethan's stomach churned at what he saw. The Dominion's fleet was massive. Hundreds of capital ships, thousands of attack craft, enough firepower to wipe Earth off the map. Ethan swallowed. This is a losing battle. Carter glanced at him. It would be, if we fought fair. Ethan frowned. What do you mean? Lyra answered. Earth has been developing weapons that don't just match the Dominion. They outclass them. She tapped a control panel, and a new schematic appeared. A sleek, heavily armored warship, unlike anything Ethan had ever seen. This is the Erebus-class dreadnought, Lyra said. Earth's first cloaking battleship. The Dominion won't even see it coming. Ethan's breath caught. We have stealth warships. Carter nodded. And we're about to use them. The tension in the room thickened. This was it. The war was coming. And Earth was ready. Ethan stood frozen, staring at the massive holographic display of the Dominion's fleet. It was a terrifying sight. Hundreds of warships, each bristling with weapons capable of reducing planets to dust. The sheer scale of the invasion force was overwhelming. Even with Earth's hidden defenses, even with the advanced technology Lyra had revealed, how could humanity possibly stand a chance against this? He turned to General Carter, his voice tense. How do you stop an armada that size? Carter didn't flinch. We don't stop it. We cripple it before it ever reaches Earth. Lyra stepped forward, her eyes locked onto the tactical display. If we strike first, take out their command ships, disrupt their coordination, we can buy enough time to launch a full-scale counterattack. Ethan shook his head. Even if we manage that, they still outnumber us 100 to 1. Carter gave a small, grim smile. That's the thing about war, son. It's never just about numbers. He pressed a button on the control panel, and a new fleet appeared on the display. But this one wasn't alien. It was human. Ethan's eyes widened. Earth wasn't as defenseless as the galaxy believed. Dozens of Erebus-class dreadnoughts, their sleek, angular forms designed for stealth and firepower. Swarms of automated fighter drones equipped with quantum disruptor cannons. Orbital railgun platforms hidden within Earth's atmosphere, ready to rain destruction on any invaders. Lyra watched Ethan's expression shift from doubt to shock. This is what the Dominion never saw coming. Earth isn't just another primitive world waiting to be conquered. We're a sleeping giant. Ethan let out a slow breath. So this is why they've never attacked before. Carter nodded. They always assumed Earth was weak, but they had no proof. Now, thanks to Lyra, they know we're a threat, which means they won't hold back. The weight of those words settled over Ethan. If the Dominion had any doubts before, they were gone now. The war wasn't coming. It had already begun. A sharp alarm blared through the base. Red lights flashed along the walls. Lyra's head snapped toward the nearest console. We've got incoming signals. Multiple ships entering the solar system. Ethan's heart pounded. They're already here. Carter's expression darkened. No, this isn't the invasion fleet. It's a scouting force. Lyara's fingers flew over the controls. 3 Dominion cruisers. They're scanning the system. She hesitated, then cursed under her breath. They're looking for me. Carter didn't hesitate. Then we take them out before they report back. Ethan watched in awe as the hangar burst into action. Soldiers sprinted to their battle stations. Engineers loaded weapons onto Earth's hidden warships, and massive bay doors rumbled open to reveal the endless blackness of space. Liara turned to Ethan. You wanted to know how humanity fights back. Watch. The first Erebus-class dreadnought disappeared in an instant, vanishing into the void as its cloaking systems engage. One by one, more of them followed, like shadows slipping into the dark. Liara projected the battle feed onto the main screen. Ethan could see the Dominion cruisers, their sleek, golden hulls gleaming as they moved cautiously through the solar system. They weren't expecting trouble. They had no idea what was waiting for them. And then it happened. A single pulse of blue energy erupted from nowhere. It ripped through the first Dominion ship, cutting it in half before the crew even knew they were under attack. The second ship scrambled to respond, its weapons powering up. But it was too late. A squadron of Earth's fighter drones emerged from the void, moving faster than anything Ethan had ever seen. They tore through the cruiser's defenses in seconds, leaving nothing but twisted metal floating in space. The third Dominion ship tried to flee, a fatal mistake. A bright flash erupted in the darkness, one of Earth's orbital railguns firing. The kinetic ram struck the cruiser like a meteor, and in an instant, the ship was gone. Silence fell over the command center. 3 Dominion warships, gone in less than a minute. Ethan swallowed hard. Holy. Carter exhaled slowly. They'll know something happened, but they won't know who did it. That buys us time. Liara turned back to the display. Not much, though. Once their main fleet arrives, it won't matter if we have stealth ships. They'll burn Earth to the ground just to be sure. Ethan's stomach twisted. He had seen the fleet size. He knew Liara was right. A full-on war with the Dominion wasn't survivable. Unless. He stepped closer to the table, his mind racing. You said there are other civilizations in the galaxy, right? Some peaceful. Liara nodded. A few, yes. Ethan's eyes narrowed. Then why the hell are we fighting alone? Liara blinked. Carter raised an eyebrow. Ethan continued, his voice gaining urgency. The Dominion rules with fear, but if other species knew they weren't unstoppable, if they saw Earth fighting back and winning, wouldn't that change things? A slow smile spread across Liara's face. You're thinking of an alliance. Carter crossed his arms. There hasn't been a successful rebellion against the Dominion in 1,000 years. What makes you think we could pull it off? Ethan gestured at the wreckage of the 3 cruisers still floating in space. Because no one's ever done what we just did. Silence hung in the air. And then Liara grinned. He's right. She turned back to the display. The Dominion has enemies, small factions, hidden resistance groups. They've never stood a chance alone, but together. Carter exhaled. You're suggesting we start a galactic revolution. Ethan shrugged. If the alternative is getting wiped out, I'd say it's worth a shot. Liara's fingers danced over the console, pulling up star maps and potential allies. Rebel factions, oppressed civilizations, alien species living under the Dominion's boot. If we move fast, we can send a message before the main invasion force arrives, she said. Let the galaxy know Earth isn't just fighting for itself. We're fighting for everyone. Carter finally nodded. Then let's not waste time. Ethan took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. This was it. Earth wasn't just defending itself anymore. It was about to become the spark that set the galaxy on fire. Ethan stood in the command center, staring at the massive display of the incoming Dominion fleet. Thousands of warships, their golden hulls gleaming as they approached Earth's orbit. This was it. The moment humanity had been preparing for. The moment they had feared. General Carter's voice was steady, but the weight of the situation pressed on every word. We hold the line, no matter what. Ethan clenched his fists. He had never been a soldier, never imagined himself on the front lines of a war that would decide the fate of the galaxy. But here he was, and he wasn't going to back down. Liara stood beside him, her violet eyes scanning the battlefield with precision. They'll attack in coordinated waves. First, they'll try to disable Earth's orbital defenses. Then, they'll send boarding teams. If that fails, they'll start bombarding the surface. Ethan's jaw tightened. Then we don't give them the chance. The fleet was waiting. Earth's hidden warships, the Erotus-class dreadnoughts cloaked in the void, sat silent, invisible, their weapons ready. Thousands of automated fighter drones drifted in formation, waiting for the order to strike. And below, on the planet's surface, the resistance was prepared. Massive railgun batteries hidden beneath the mountains. Plasma turrets disguised as civilian infrastructure. Even Earth's own people had taken up arms, prepared to fight for their home. Then the first Dominion ships entered firing range. A shockwave of energy erupted from their warships, tearing through the void. Earth's orbital defenses shimmered, absorbing the impact, but the Dominion's weapons were powerful. The shields wouldn't hold forever. General Carter didn't hesitate. Launch all fighters. Engage the cloaked fleet. The battle exploded into chaos. From the darkness, Earth's warships decloaked, unleashing a devastating first strike. Railgun slugs ripped through Dominion capital ships, tearing apart their hulls before they could react. Plasma beams lanced through the void, melting enemy armor in an instant. The Dominion scrambled to respond, but they had underestimated Earth's strength. The hidden defenses, the advanced AI-driven drones, the sheer determination of humanity. It all threw them off balance. Ethan watched as a squadron of fighter drones zipped through the Dominion formation, dodging enemy fire with inhuman precision. They moved in perfect sync, their AI minds linked together. One after another, enemy ships exploded. But the Dominion wasn't done. Liara's voice turned sharp. They're adapting. They're sending in their main assault teams. On the display, massive dropships broke off from the enemy fleet, diving toward the surface. If they landed, the ground battle would begin. Ethan grabbed a headset. All planetary defenses. Target those transports. Don't let them land. A wall of anti-aircraft fire erupted from Earth's surface. Missile batteries, laser cannons, and railgun turrets lit up the sky. Dominion dropships exploded mid-air, their wreckage raining down like falling stars. But some made it through. The alarms blared. The enemy was on the ground. Ethan turned to Lyra. We have to go. Now. They sprinted through the corridors of the base, grabbing weapons as they moved. Outside, the city was already a war zone. Dominion soldiers, their golden armor gleaming under the burning sky, marched through the streets. Plasma bolts flashed in every direction as Earth's resistance forces fought back. Ethan ducked behind a wrecked car, breathing heavily. He peeked over the edge and saw a squad of Dominion soldiers advancing toward a civilian shelter. He didn't think. He raised his rifle and fired. The plasma bolt hit the lead soldier, sending him crashing to the ground. The others spun toward Ethan, their weapons charging. Before they could shoot, Lyra leaped into action. Moving faster than humanly possible, she twisted through the air, her energy blades slicing through enemy armor. The last soldier fell, and the street went quiet. Ethan looked at Lyra, breathing hard. I'll never get used to that. She smirked. Then stay close. The battle raged around them. Explosions shook the ground. Fires spread through the ruined cityscape. But humanity wasn't giving up. Everywhere, people were fighting back. Civilians with makeshift weapons, hacking into enemy comms to disrupt their coordination. Resistance fighters using hit-and-run tactics, taking down Dominion patrols before vanishing into the shadows. And overhead, Earth's warships still fought fiercely, taking out Dominion battlecruisers one by one. But the Dominion flagship remained untouched. Liara pointed to the towering warship looming over the battlefield. "If we take out their command ship, we break their entire assault force." Ethan nodded. "Then let's end this." They fought their way through the streets, dodging enemy fire, taking down squads of Dominion troopers. Eventually, they reached the old military base, where Earth's last remaining stealth shuttles were hidden. General Carter's voice crackled over the comms. "I don't like this plan, but it's the only shot we have. Get in, plant the charges, and get out." Ethan and Liara boarded the shuttle, their hearts pounding. The ship launched into the sky, weaving through the chaotic battlefield. Plasma blasts streaked past as they approached the Dominion flagship. The moment they docked, the real fight began. Ethan and Liara raced through the corridors, cutting down enemy soldiers as they went. The ship was enormous, but Liara knew exactly where to go. The reactor core. They burst into the chamber, weapons raised. But the Dominion was waiting. A towering figure stepped forward. A Dominion warlord, his armor radiating power. His voice was like thunder. "You think you can stop the inevitable." Ethan raised his gun, but the warlord moved too fast. A massive energy blade slashed toward him, but Liara was faster. She blocked the strike, energy sparking as their weapons clashed. Ethan knew they didn't have time for a long fight. He ran toward the reactor, dodging gunfire as he set the charges. The countdown began. 5 minutes until detonation. Liara fought with everything she had, but the warlord was powerful. He knocked her back, raising his blade for the final strike. Ethan fired his last plasma shot. It hit the warlord square in the chest. He staggered, looking down in shock, then collapsed. Liara exhaled, then grabbed Ethan's arm. Time to go. They sprinted back to the shuttle, alarms blaring through the warship. The moment they launched, the Dominion ship began to explode from within. On the battlefield below, the Dominion saw their flagship burning, and their forces began to retreat. The sky erupted as Earth's defenses pushed back harder than ever. One by one, Dominion ships broke formation, retreating into hyperspace. The war was over. Ethan slumped into his seat, staring at the wreckage of the Dominion fleet. Did we just win? Liara grinned, exhaustion in her eyes. Yeah, we did. General Carter's voice came over the comms. You two just saved the damn world. Earth had stood its ground. And against all odds, humanity had won. Smoke still curled through the sky, and the shattered remains of Dominion warships drifted like dead husks in Earth's orbit. Fires burned across the cities, but the people of Earth still stood. Ethan stepped out of the ruined command bunker, his uniform torn, blood drying on his skin. His hands trembled, not with fear, but with the weight of what had just happened. They had won. Against impossible odds, against a force that had conquered countless worlds, Earth had stood its ground, and the Dominion had retreated. But victory had come at a cost. He walked through the streets, stepping over rubble and debris. Survivors emerged from hiding, civilians, soldiers, medics, moving through the devastation with dazed expressions. Some wept, others held on to each other in silence. The war had taken so much from them. Liara walked beside him, silent. Her violet eyes scanned the aftermath with an unreadable expression. She had fought in many battles, across many worlds, but this one was different. Earth had done something no other species had managed. They had defied the Dominion and survived. Ethan turned as a familiar voice called his name. General Carter limped toward them, supported by 2 soldiers, his face covered in soot. He nodded at Ethan, his voice rough, but filled with pride. You did good, kid. Ethan let out a shaky breath. We all did. The resistance had held the line. The hidden fleets had turned the tide. And the people of Earth, ordinary men and women, had refused to surrender. The Dominion wouldn't forget this day. Across the planet, emergency broadcasts flickered to life. Images of burning warships, of victorious soldiers, of humanity standing tall against an empire that had once considered them insignificant. The galaxy would see. They would see that Earth wasn't a weak, primitive world. They would see that humans were fighters, that they were survivors, that they would never bow. Lyara's voice was quiet, but firm. "This isn't over. The Dominion will return." Ethan nodded. "Then we'll be ready." Because now, humanity wasn't just fighting for its own survival. The oppressed worlds across the galaxy had seen what happened. They had seen Earth stand against the Dominion and win. And whispers were already spreading. The Dominion was not invincible. Rebellion had begun to stir in the shadows of 1,000 planets. Uprisings would follow. The Dominion's iron grip over the galaxy had cracked, and it would never be the same again. Humanity had risen, and the galaxy would never forget.